just do a video to this just to clean this up some more. So they're 4 minutes and 8 minutes into this chat, him and Hoffler Day. So nothing, no fireworks yet. But just they're so obnoxious. So 4 minutes on the subject of whether first he's upset because I call him a liar. So we just saw what he did with video clips on my video, right? He played one clip 12 times, took the clips out of order, put them out of sequence. I mean, if you're not lying about somebody's position when you start cutting different clips and putting them together, that seems like the behavior of a liar. And 4,000 videos, I haven't done that to anybody else's videos because I knew that would be lying about their position. So yes, you're a liar. We don't agree. I never said survival was important, a necessary accomplishment, vital in any way whatsoever. I've always valued the sensate organisms, feelings, period. Nothing else. Get back in your chair, fucker. I do value him. It's just, sometimes you gotta be a little firm. 4 minutes on that. So anyway, so now he's arguing about the word braining, right? So he did a video search. Like I don't use brain. I don't say things like the brain's just braining or something like that, right? That's not my routine. It has nothing to do with my videos. He used the term and put it in my mouth, and I said, no, I'd rather not have that put in my mouth, okay? So what does he do? He searches my videos for the word braining. And yeah, in the old mystic days, when we were talking about the brain and how it works, yeah, we said braining, okay? Completely different context, and just more pettiness, right? You don't understand 4,000 videos, 2 videos out of 4,000, and 5-6 years ago? Yeah, and you're being honest. This is honest behavior. What you're doing is honest. You throw a word in my mouth that I don't like, braining, and then you sit there and accuse me of being dishonest or insincere when you cut my clips together and then go on a search of my videos and find 6-year-old references in titles. Fuck you.
Video tomorrow in the week.
But why is that even relevant? I don't understand why this would matter, the word braining. What hinges on this putting it that way?
Yeah, really, and he just did this mimicry of my reaction as if I got hysterical about it. No, I just said I wouldn't use the word braining. I don't really like that word. I could have gone into an explanation of why I don't like it, but yeah, it's just like the mystic thing, right? I don't like the universe just universing bullshit, and I don't like braining just braining bullshit. I wouldn't say something glib like that because I take what the brain does seriously, fucker. So anyway, we'll play this and I'll be back. Alright, this is kind of entertaining actually. So now we're at 7:43. So Piro's going on one of his little tirades. So I guess I'll start with Day, right? So he said that he looked at some of my older videos and he's saying the same thing as me. He's saying the same thing as, well, it's a little different, but he's saying the same thing as me. And I'm not saying anything like what you're saying, okay? As soon as you do your little to-me thing, you just blow it all up. It doesn't mean anything. As soon as you turn the meaning of feeling into some subjective thing that isn't happening in the universe anymore, like I'm having a feeling, my feeling is somehow personal to me, it doesn't exist in the universe, it's not relevant in any meaningful way, it's just meaningful to me, period. That's absolute nonsense. It's an event. Okay, yes, it's a personal event. I'm personally manufacturing it. My brain is doing it. Okay, but it's a thing happening in the universe. Okay, it's not a thing happening in the universe, so we don't agree at all because we don't agree on the most important thing, and that is the fact that it has real value weight, not no value weight. It has real value weight. It makes a difference whether you torture 6 million Jews or you comfort 6 million Jews. It's different intrinsically and fundamentally, and it doesn't matter what your fucking opinion is. It doesn't matter what you feel about it. It just doesn't goddamn matter. It's fundamentally negative for them to be tortured, and it's fundamentally positive for them to be comforted. Fuck you, you're insane. Okay, done. Alright, now Piro. So he's talking now, he brought up the cliche bullshit. He doesn't watch my videos, he admits that. So what's the point? He's commenting on videos he doesn't watch. Fuck you for that. You fucking weasel. So yeah, I've been over this so many times. So again, he's bringing up sadomasochists, that somehow they are really enjoying suffering. That's his argument. That this is somehow an example. This should all make us all clear that suffering isn't suffering. Suffering is something you enjoy. And it's just an idiotic comparison. It's a sick psychology in the first place. It's not even normal psychology, so why do I have to even account for it? But even if I was to account for it as being some sort of real phenomenon, it's not real the way you think it is. They're not enjoying the pain. They're using the pain to distract themselves from some other pain. That's the whole fucking point of it. Alright? That the only way they can find a way to gain satiation of some internal grief is to create some noise, pain noise, or control mechanism. They need a control mechanism. And they need control so badly that they'll make themselves puke, or they'll do all kinds of things that are unpleasant just so they have control. Oh, you're just too stupid. Alright, so now the really precious part. Okay, he's talking about physical damage is the only important thing. So, yeah, he really is a paramecium at heart. All he cares about is the Pac-Man eating shit and surviving. And apparently its misery condition is just irrelevant. That's insignificant. The only thing that matters is physical damage. The machine must survive. Evolution, a dumb, crude force, must be respected. I mean, you just can't get more base and imbecilic.
System. And it breaks down, it doesn't become absolute, but it's also not just willy-nilly whatever. You could define health in a system, and you can't plug value into. It's just the weirdest thing ever is the Gary system in the history of philosophy. I don't know that it's been tried to go ahead and base all your values on feelings and say they're objective.
Yeah, say the feelings objectively happen. The misery is always misery when it's misery. There's no other way for it to be something other than misery when it is misery. Alright, however, whatever causes you misery doesn't matter. When you're miserable, you are miserable. You're in a condition. The condition is identifiable. It has properties. Those properties are known. One of the properties isn't, this feels great. What's great? Oh, I love this. This is fantastic. This is orgasmic. I jizzed in my fucking goddamn brain. It was so much fucking goddamn fun. I invented that, jizzing in your brain. I mean, this is just such bullshit.
But nobody's tried that. It's like it's either I'm basing on feelings because
nobody's tried that. I mean, this is just, I think, okay, sorry, yeah, as much as I think the human race is a bunch of imbeciles, I think most people, if I gave them 10 questions to parse out how they deal with life, they're going to understand the value of feelings. Yeah, so I don't think this is a problem. I think this is only a problem. Fuck, anal motherfuckers like you have their fucking little pointy head way the fuck up their little ass and their jizz in their brain.
The world's subjective, or I'm basing them on like whether you lost your hand or not, and I'm making it objective.
Yeah, so this is his logic is that if I give you an anesthetic and cut your hand off, or I poke you in the ass with a needle, so one thing hurts, one thing doesn't hurt at all. Yeah, well, forget it. I'm not going to use this. The greater injury is where we should go. So let's just reverse the circumstance. So it's always about whatever one's the greater injury, not the one that's the greater misery. I mean, I have to use equal. I just use a hand cut off with anesthesia, a hand cut off without anesthesia, or fingers. Well, let's not even bother with it. But the point is yeah, he's valuing the health of the organism, not the quality of the organism's conscious sentient existence. Because he's an asshole. I'll be back. Alright, yeah, sorry, it's only 10 minutes, but I just thought I'd better comment on this part, which was just kind of funny. So Holiday is speaking for himself now, and he's saying his theory is that there's this value range with some sort of absolutes at the end, some sort of finite happiness, finite misery. I would argue that there's a finite happiness, which is comfort. There isn't a finite misery. You can always have another broken piece. You can always stick another nail in, so I don't believe that. Anyway, regardless, even if there was, it doesn't really matter. He wants to lift the whole scale up and move it somewhere. And so his argument is the whole scale can be moved into positive territory, and that it could actually be a positive somehow, to have a nail in your eye. That somehow you could move this scale where horrible, torturous feelings, repulsive feelings, would somehow not be repulsive, but somehow would be pleasurable. And I think it's a ludicrous position. It's an insane position. I don't see how that's possible. You cannot change the nature of the feelings. The feelings exist for this fundamental purpose, and I would argue, that the positive is an illusion anyway. It's just getting rid of the negative, and the negative is fucking real, and no matter where you put it, it's still negative. You're never going to make the misery of having a nail in your eye a positive event. Ever. Crazy fuck. So, let's just see what he said.
Kind of what I see him doing, except that if you understand, and I think he's quite correct, biologically speaking, I think that's the way it works, because it makes...
See, now he's saying I'm correct. I would never say you could pick the whole scale up and put it in positive territory. So if you want to say you could pick the whole scale up and move it further up or down, yeah, you could do that. But you're never going to take torture out of the negative quadrant.
Makes no difference. The fact that it biologically works like that, it makes no difference whether I make the abstraction of a scale, because it is an abstraction. I'm using words which themselves are abstractions.
Whatever. Yeah. I mean, most of the time you can't even listen to him anyway. Yeah, well, we won't be burdened for a while, I promise. I will evade his videos when at all possible. Yeah, I'll attempt to control my need to correct assholes. Alright, this place is starting to get funny now. Like, actual funny, just because the fight's starting. So we're at 13:17, and Puro has started his color thing. So he doesn't like this grayscale idea, of gradient feelings. Whether they're gradient positive or gradient negative. He doesn't like this gradient thing, which I don't understand at all. I mean, it's completely consistent with my personal experience. You can be sick, or you can be sicker, and sickest. You can have, I mean, it just does multiply. Pain can multiply. It can plus, and it can multiply. And then you can have it subtracted by morphine. I mean, it's just silly not to say. I personally would, it's every bit of my life I'm exchanging value experiences. My perception of what they're going to be like. Is it going to be worth it? I will exchange money for something because I think the pleasure of it will be worth what I could have spent the money on to derive some kind of pleasure. I mean, this is just how everybody functions. Maybe they don't spend their money wisely. Maybe they don't spend their currency in life well. But I think they're trying to. So this is just ludicrous. And it still doesn't get to my fundamental argument, which is we can see also that our joys are usually made out of the relief of a negative condition. People are happy when they win the lottery because it frees them of the burdens of poverty. I mean, it's just true that worry and tension and stress, these negative conditions, when they're eliminated, will give you bliss. You will gain comfort, satisfaction, gratification, and ultimately bliss if I take away your fetters, if I take away the negative conditions harassing you. It's only through harassment that you're not deliriously happy right now.
Began, and you sort of went, yeah, okay.
Well, you can do it.
In a simplistic way, yeah.
Yeah, you could say amount of love could be from 0 to 100% and write a video game called The Sims, yes, and I could go, okay, but it doesn't mean it catches it fundamentally, or what the problem is. When I say where that system will come into limitations, it's visible, it's predictable, but it's not me bringing it up either. This is the Asian issue.
It's
kind of funny just because, Puro just keeps talking and talking. That's why they just can't.
Talking over me, and I've tried to raise an objection. Yeah?
Okay, so, what's your objection to my color metaphor?
No.
You didn't answer his question, which was give him an example of something that fits your color crap. and I don't think you're ever going to come up with one. So anyway, I'll be back. Alright, so Piro is saying a lot of crazy shit, but he says experiences can't be reduced to positive and negative. I'm just saying, yeah, most people can do that. Most feelings, most experiences fall into a category. Do that again, not do that again. We could call that positive and negative. And so the real point is, and then he also was talking about experiences, and he keeps talking about them as if we're talking about the experience itself, like eating a donut. And that somehow somebody's arguing that eating a donut is the same experience for everybody. No, we're not talking about causes for feelings. I'll say we, me and Holiday, just for the sake of this point. The argument isn't about what's causing a feeling. The argument is about what the feeling is. And the feeling fits somewhere on a continuum from horrible to fantastic. It doesn't fit nowhere. It doesn't float in color space. So anyway, so now he's just saying he admits he has some 1 in a million kind of perception of space, and Holiday made the good point that it's space is a location, and Piro said no, it's not. It's some other bullshit. Anyway.
That's the complexity. You mean when you say
relativism?
Right. When you say, pardon?
I'm saying it's relativistic where the zero goes.
So he's moving the zero anywhere he wants. So, like I said, I don't think there is a zero. Okay, you're going to automatically be in positive, quote unquote, territory as soon as you take away a negative. You're doing positive, but you're not necessarily finished being positive. Positive is bliss. Everything else is, and that's a zero. That's the zero-sum game. And the rest are all negatives. Anything less than bliss is a degrade in condition, and likely not to be a good degrade. You really can't go somewhere good from bliss.
That's not helping the conversation.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. This is where you guys are stuck.
Right. You agree that there's positive and negative, right?
No.
We just... That was... Wait.
I think that's arbitrary. I think that's made up.
Okay, that's made up. So, yeah, we make it up. It's just made up. So don't worry. It's just all made up. So, someday maybe get run over by a steamroller and you can tell me about how he made up a whole bunch of fucking pain and misery. It was really just fun. And you should just laugh because it was fun. A really slow steamroller. Really slow. Yeah. I did enjoy that a little. Till next time. Oh, now Inventive Harvest is in the room. Just forget about it. Option A divided by option B divided by option C. So anyway, Piro just said he was he's not phantasmagorical. So right before that, he conceded that he has a philosophy of space and time and color, apparently, that no one else has. That's science. Anyway, and then but he says he's studied in science, and it's just kind of funny, right? Because his science career was a couple of years, I think, at Berkeley doing drugs. I mean, he didn't get a degree in anything. Anyway. So, yeah, this is probably going to go nowhere. They ended up arguing over the endpoints, which I just don't think is really significant. So, Holiday wants to move his scale, and the end pegs are just sort of who cares. I mean, whether there's an end peg or not, who cares? You're just moving the scale, so you can just, even if it has infinite ends, you can still just pick it up and move it. It's the whole scale lifts up, infinite or not. So he should have just said, pick it up, move it, and then make his point, which I don't even know what his point was anyway. I really don't. So anyway, no, I don't think there was anything else. It's all quite insane. I guess it's going to get a little bit insaner. I come in about, I don't know, 40 minutes or so. I don't know where. I just go show up to say, you people be crazy. Goodbye. Alright, still going on about this stupid endpoint, which, finite information storage in the brain or something, but, the brain can do it all in formulas, so it can do that E equals mc squared thing. It can just square something like times the speed of light squared, and it doesn't have to do the actual math, so it could just speed of light squared. But anyway, it doesn't really matter. I just wanted to point out, he did say, I'm saying, so just like, so because I say, I'm just saying, that's not okay. But when he says, I'm saying, what I'm saying is, that's what he said, right? So yeah, I should get a clip of you doing that over and over again, right? And that would be fair cop? No, that would be petty asshole. So yeah, I won't be doing that because I'm not a petty asshole like you. Anyway, Piro's coming back, so of course he'll just keep yammering. All right, so it really is a inane conversation. I mean, they just can't even get off. They can't, it's all wet dynamite or something. I mean, it just is fizzling. It just can't do anything. It can't. No, this fuse keeps going out. So all right, so they're done arguing finite infinite feeling potential, and now they're going to argue whether there's such a thing as a moment of time. And Piro's going to argue that in every moment. I just jizzed in my brain, even though I didn't know I did it, but I did it. Some kind of bullshit like that. We're not really talking about moments in time. And it's just, hilarious that, all Holiday was trying to get as a concession that at a moment of time you can only be so happy. And then Piro was trying to extend it to 10 years. And it's, it's just, it really is hilarious.
A system that is moving in action, it's processing. That's like saying
the apparent. What we're talking about is experiences, right? And we perceive them as moments, right? So I've not made no argument about whether the whole mind.
I don't think we do perceive them as moments. That's made up.
We're talking about.
That's made up. So we don't perceive them as moments. That's made up. Well, that's what perception is. All of perception is made up, asshole. So. But clearly we perceive things very slowly by comparison to the function of the atomic universe. And it would be just idiotic to say that I don't know what I'm doing in Pacific 2 or 3 seconds would be a moment. That's a moment. There's a moment. No doubt about that one either. I mean, this is just semantics now. But anyway, yeah, they're just never going to get off the ground. So anyway, I'll wait till I come in just because I haven't seen me yet.
You can use that word process, right? What about at an instant in time? What about at an instant in time? Does it have the ability to word process? No, because it's frozen and you can't do anything in an instant of time. So nothing can do anything in an instant of time because it's made up.
Well, he uses an example that's really so bogus because the computer has a clock cycle, and there clearly is an on and an off moment. There's not both at the same time. The computer's essentially off, and then it goes on when it's at a new memory location, and then it's off, and then it goes on at a new memory location. So there's a clear jump to a memory location. So I think it's kind of bogus. And then somebody's going to mention Planck constant, and Piro's going to call him Planck.
No, you're obstinate. I'm trying to tell you for years how primitive your understandings are. You won't listen.
Oh yeah, now he's saying their understandings are primitive. He's been trying to tell us that for years. See, I once brought up the fact that the universe would be on a clock cycle, and that there would be a finest frame rate, a finest grain, and that's the same argument that's going to be brought up here. And Piro did agree to it in the past. He said it might be that way. So this obstinance now is kind of funny.
Here we go again. If you're happy to, insofar as there's a plus and negative, and you're just being obstinate about there's no instant now, right? You're the one who defends calculus and that we can have a bloody infinitesimal or whatever you want to describe it. You're just being obstinate in a state. Right?
Whatever. It relates directly to calculus. This is an insight.
If you'll allow a continuum, but you won't say at a time slice we can measure how much. I mean, this whole thing is predicated.
Anyway, yeah, sorry, I didn't know how long we were going, but anyway, I think that the idea of, I think the universe, it just really doesn't matter. There's not There's no infinite amount of time that you can keep dividing. There is movement of the quanta, and the quanta has a structure, and there's a point where you're dividing finer than the quanta, and you really just can't do that.
On a simplistic measurement of being able to measure.
I don't think you're listening.
If I get you to agree to that, then you're going to go, practically, I don't believe we can really measure it. Well, the whole conversation is based upon the loose basis.
Yeah. Well, it is kind of funny to see him complaining about the very semantics games he's playing all the time. So, yeah, you got what you deserve there, buddy. So anyway, I'll get back to this.
There's this thing called an exposure time.
Oh,
It takes a while to make that impression. It's a law of physics.
Whatever. So they're talking about time now. Well, that example is backwards because when you play the film, okay, there doesn't need any moment of time. It's a frame rate. It's a flash of light, period. Not very complicated. In terms of you certainly, because of the digital nature of it, you could certainly call the image a moment.
So what I've heard about physics is that that there's a Planck measurement of time. That when a particle is created, it also needs to create some amount of time for it to exist in.
Yeah, I don't think that's it. I think the Planck constant is actually just a measurement of, how far, I don't know, the hydrogen electron travels 1 meter or something. So it's kind of an arbitrary constant. So, but, Piro's answer is just kind of funny.
Which is a Planck unit of time. But I don't really know quantum physics.
Yes, there's the shortest period of time.
There's the shortest period of time. So that's kind of silly, right? Because the Planck constant isn't the shortest period of time, theoretically. Because we don't know the mechanics. I do, but the rest of you don't. And so how could you know how the dominoes flip? You can't. So you can't know the shortest period of time.
Okay. You wouldn't call that a moment?
It has a duration. Things can happen in that moment of time. It's not frozen. Things can happen in that moment of time.
Right, so it's the shortest moment of time, but things can happen in that moment of time. So that doesn't make much sense, right? On its face, right? It's kind of a stupid way to say it. But anyway, it doesn't really matter. The point is we don't know, right? So, but if you did do the quanta thing, you did do the idea that it progresses. Light moves the speed of light, and it does it through some mechanical process. And if it was something like flipping distance, it could be that it's in this state, in the next moment it's in this state, and there's no moments in between. It just goes from here to here, period. But we don't know. But that certainly is theoretically possible. But the arrogant Piro says, no, it's not.
It's not frozen.
So
It's
we
the
just talked
smallest moment that things can happen in. It's not frozen. Plus, here's the other thing. Relativistically, wait a second. Relativistically, the Planck moment, it's all relative. The Planck moment for you is a certain amount of time, but because of time dilation, it could be arbitrarily long. Your Planck moment for someone else, and
they can't have one of those, so that's just preposterous. The constant's a constant, just like the speed of light. You can't break it.
Frame. And you could have a Planck moment shorter than theirs, and they
That's
would know
correct.
that.
That's a good point, I think.
I think the moment.
No, it isn't a good point. It's a stupid point. And Einstein would say, no, you can't do that. It's constant.
So what if we just talked about a very small interval of time? Would that be okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's what I'm saying we should do, and this is the point I've made to Heitler today, and he just wants to dismiss it and act like I'm dismissing his stuff, and he still hasn't got the insight we could get from calculus. Anybody that studied.
Oh, shit. The insight we could get from calculus. Phantasmagorical insights, no doubt. Anyway, I'll be back. Alright, so we just got done saying some people want to hurt their toe. Like, we hate stubbing our toe, but some people want to hurt their toe. I don't think they really want to do that in isolation for the experience in and of itself. I don't think they want to. But anyway, so again, you just can't seem to separate causes from effects. The conversation about value, anyway, is usually going to be related to the effects, okay, which is a sensation, a feeling, an experience. And the experience is what makes going to the fun park fun. is your experience. It isn't just doing fun things. If you're not having fun, it's not a fun park anymore. Anyway, I should be showing up about now.
Statistics. So in reality, there is no positive and negative in that sense. There's just these spectrums of colors of experiences that we either like.
So this is just silly. Like you can't seem like, say if I had two hookers, Mary and Margaret, and they were both 10s and both great, and they were both free on the same night, and both the same price and both everything. And it's really hard to make a choice because it's both going to be great. So yeah, they're right next to each other on the scale. What's the big deal? Yeah, one's a 9.7 and one's a 9.7328641. So yeah, you go with whatever has the edge. Yeah. So the fact that there's ties, the fact that there's experiences that are equally good, and it's hard to decide which one you want to do, doesn't mean there still isn't nail in the eye, and that nail in the eye still is a long fucking way away, and it sucks. Oh, he's such an asshole.
That color, or we don't like that color.
Well, I think there's positive and negatives, but it's relative to who's experiencing it, right?
You don't see how positive and negative might just be arbitrary. Us trying to put dollar amounts on things, for example. We have to think of them all the same, so we come up with a little token where we can think of them as the same.
Again, these are experiences, not the causes. The thing you're experiencing, being high, like from a drug. It doesn't matter what drug it is. The experience of being stoned, that's the thing you would talk about. Good thing, right?
Well, it's
not really the same.
That I have positive experiences, and I have experiences that I would call negative. Now, some of the experiences that I call negative, you might enjoy those experiences, right? But that it's all subjective.
But if there's a concept you call it negative, where does that come from? Where did you get the word negative? You think 100?
Yeah. He thinks we invented the concept of negative because it was some religious idea. Like we didn't just overtly recognize that anything associated with stick up your ass was negative. So anything that was sort of like the experience of having to stick up your ass, we decided to call negative.
2,000 years ago, did you categorize them into positive or negative? According to Nietzsche.
According to Nietzsche, gee, that's such a. I mean, it scares me that people can say something like that out loud. Like somebody should be impressed. According to Nietzsche.
And the tradition in Western philosophy, Zoroaster.
Tradition now. It's a tradition.
Was the one that came along and invented this idea of good and evil, and so everything could even be put on this spectrum.
So his logic is back in the caveman days, they were all confused and they couldn't figure out what sucked and what didn't suck. You need a philosopher to show up and explain it to them, because they thought everything was the same.
Right, but I wasn't here 100,000 years ago.
So but the things, the words, the concepts you use now, there's nothing fundamental. It's not like your instinct that you put things in positive and negative. Well, no kidding, because this is a 3,000-year-old way of...
Feelings are intrinsically value weighted.
Doing it. And it's also behind 3,000-year-old errors we've been making. So it's up to think about the way we think about the world, and this positive and negative thing is it's a monkey idea we need to get over.
Oh yeah, right. It's a monkey idea. I mean, you can really go through all these things. Like, how many people do you think in the history of smallpox fatalities had a good time? How many you think?
Well, it's dichotomous, right? But something should be more positive. There's a point in the middle of indifference. There's a whole continuum. I'm not saying that it's black and white.
But you disagree that you've created that continuum.
Right. So if somebody's drowning, they've created the silliness of thinking something's wrong. It's not fun. And then they're rescued. And because they're rescued, then it's all okay. They never went through anything horrible. There was no trauma.
But you just arbitrarily created it. Like, before Darwinism, they had created a continuum of low life to high sophisticated life. And when they came up with evolution, it remarkably matched, in a lot of ways, the shape of the evolution in terms of less to more sophisticated evolutionary forms, right? But they had just made that continuum up.
Right. Well, they have the human genome now, and it sort of does match all of that stuff pretty well. So if they made it up, they did a pretty good job because it matches the genetic code, with the exception of maybe panda bears or something. I mean, they're raccoons, right?
Right. You say there's a continuum from negative to positive. Are you denying that you just invented that? You just drew a line on a piece of paper and started saying this and this and this, and maybe this should go that way.
I'm talking about
Totally
my
arbitrary.
subjective preferences. So I'm talking about things that I like versus things I don't like.
But I'm saying you're not even talking about your subjective preferences. You're trying to map your subjective preferences onto a line. They don't really exist on a line. You're mapping them and creating an artifact, a record.
I mean, it really is that bad, right? I mean, you just keep going with those 9 million analogies. I mean, I don't know, warm bath, having my hammer hit with a hammer, having my hand hit with a hammer. I mean, I didn't make that up. I didn't make it up that one sucks and the other doesn't.
A bookkeeping, a file, you can put it in a thing. It's not, it's just a picture, a very crude picture that distorts the true dimensionality of your feelings and your values into a good and negative.
Yeah, that's the whole point of the feelings. Let's just remember, the whole point of the feeling mechanism is to create these variable intensities of sensation for the very purpose of creating complex behavior where you're making trade-offs between this and that.
Well, things that I'm indifferent about are the 0 point on that line. And the reason that it's a line, like, if I preferred option, like I was explaining to Arthur today while you were getting coffee, I preferred option over option A, and I preferred option C over option B, but I preferred option A over option B, then there'd be something irrational about that.
No, but there wouldn't, really.
So if I like bananas more than I like apples.
Not very good at entering a room there, old Andy. He's doing it on his phone again.
Apples, and I like cherries more than I like bananas, but I like apples more than I like cherries. There's nothing wrong with that.
The reason there's not really anything wrong with that is that comparison, that the greater than less than operator of preparing the two experiences, that's like dividing by 0. You can't actually quantify the magnitude of your pleasures and then compare them that way.
Right, so you can't have a preference. Okay, yeah, that's just hilarious.
And say that a human being will therefore choose in that pattern when you give them a certain pair. And we know there's a lot of other indicators for a person about, in that situation, which they'll prefer. Right. Besides that it's an apple. It might be fragrances in the air. It might be other foods they've had. They might have been primed. I'm getting a lot of feedback from you. Okay.
Yeah, Andy making noise.
It's just like, for example, in species, classical categories fail in the same way in species, because you have, if two animals can breed, they're supposed to be in the same species, but you have, subtype A that can breed with B, and B can breed with C, and C with D, but A can't breed with D. It's the sets in real life don't have all the transitive properties. Comparisons, right. Yeah, so it's not mathematics. How much you like an apple and a banana.
That's kind of a bogus comparison again, because there are certain lines you'll cross where you're never going back. You'll never be reproductive because you've changed the number of chromosomes or some other kind of limiting factor. But I mean, obviously the physical capacity to fertilize the egg, having enough similarity, and then also having the physical structure that's capable of mating. These are different things. I mean, they have done some rather hideous Well, whatever. I ain't gonna do it.
It's not mathematics. Just throwing in the greater than sign, you can't just turn it into mathematics that way. It's a bit hopeful.
You can't because certainly you can have a preference of bananas over apples, right?
You can call it that, yes, because you have found that you really prefer. But if you have two things that you both like and you start saying which you prefer more of things you both like, no, it's going to start to break down. So yeah, you can use it when it's really simple, like I prefer bananas to piles of dog shit, because that's always going to happen to be the case.
Well,
But
I mean,
it's still just
like
a statement.
banana, right? I might like yellow bananas more than I like apples, but not like green bananas more than I like apples. But that doesn't break it down for that one specific case of that banana.
Or the fact that you're saying a person likes bananas more than apples, but it depends what time of day and when it is and what they ate and everything up to that moment. And so we know in our real life, we go down to the fruit jar and sometimes we pick out the banana and sometimes we pick out the apple.
Sure.
Yeah.
Again, it comes down to a short amount of time.
Why don't you compare apples to apples and oranges to oranges? Why don't you actually compare things that are actually relative in terms of their intensity?
It's not my fault. Well, you just got here. My name was...
Yeah, so he starts yelling at me. Yeah, my argument was going to be something simple, like just compare a sweet apple to a sour apple. You know, really not an apple with a worm in it to an apple with no worm in it. These are different experiences relative to each other.
Trying to compare everything.
Thanks. Okay, yeah, you're in some kind of mood, I can see. I won't last long.
Yeah, I'm just sick
I'm not
of
going to bother. I'm not going to bother. Okay. I'm not going to bother. All right. Just do your speech. You're fine. You're all. I just would like to say you're all but fucking insane.
This is working great. So, yeah, I'm just fed up with making all... I'll play with these toy systems. Let's pretend that love is a number from 0 to 100, and you can make...
Anyway, love. Anyway, alright, well, this is enough. I don't remember where I heard much of this ending, but it just went on the color thing again, and yeah, then the room ended. I did go back at the end, but I don't think there was anybody there. Yeah, Andy was in there. I said, why are you in there? You're not talking, fucker. Autoplay, I don't want to do that. Let's see. Yeah, so here's the ending. So, Piro left. And there was Andy. And, well, I was in here sometime or other, but didn't matter. Fuck it, as they say. So, till next time. Enough of that. Sorry, that ending was a little bit tedious. I thought there might be something, but there wasn't. My bad.